Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important, and already we discussed a lot about this episode because this is very interesting topic, and we have our world famous speakers, Professor Farida, Professor Kirpals, as well as Professor Dr. Fakhruddin, and they have a huge experience from Asia Pacific, and especially in between this 337 episode, 300 different corporations, academy, and government body, they already join in World Talent Economy forums, and all of the people around the world, they have a keen interest about Asia Pacific. These are the people, they are actually build up the new nations for Malaysia, for Singapore, for Indonesia. So they are actually highly respectable speaker for us, and hopefully with their guidelines, we can build up our new generation, because this COVID-19 situation, we have a lot of challenges, and we have to overcome from this situation. I think we will get a huge exposure as well as guidelines and like advice from Professor Fakhruddin, and all of our professors, those who join in World Talent Economy Forum discussions today. I want to start from Professor Farida. Already he is our board of advisors. Behind the scene, she is actually support a lot of our initiative for our developments and for our many important things. And I'm sure with her guidelines, our youth generation, our policymakers, our corporation can get a new views for this world. Professor Farida, how do you want to discuss to this topic?
All right. Thank you so much, Sharif. I'll start with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Good evening. Thank you for inviting us. Me and a group of friends here who I have much respect, and they would be sharing their expertise as well with us. Now, I feel very strongly on the entanglement of technology and religion at this point of time in a very troubled period in our history of civilization. So I would like to start on that. And, we will start with the pros and cons of technology and religion. In the West, religion is always seen as a threat, as non-relevant. But personally, I think, it has never been as relevant as now. And also technology, to some people, it's in the West, of course, it's celebrated and all that, making profit, advancement, and so on. But in some parts of the world, religion is used to see technology as a threat. So I think it's a good thing to discuss this entanglement. And I was looking at a recent article by Jennifer Kans Alexander, 20 in one journal, History in Technology. She raised this issue very timely. I think it came out last year about this dichotomy, these dynamics of these two areas. So I think in Malaysia now, if you're reading the news, world news, we are in such a bad shape. We have tried everything, every theories there is, it's been tried. Every political framework we've tried, but we are still here, but I don't think we totally embrace religion as core center to our being. I think I stop there and get responses from my colleagues and perhaps, people who's listening. Thank you. Sharif.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor. Now I want to request Professor Kirpal. Uh,
Well,
yes,
I think,
Professor.
can you all hear me first of all?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, yes.
You can. Good. First of all, I think that it's important to define technology. So technology essentially means that which is an extension of the human self, meaning that technology usually resides outside of the human being, except that nowadays we are threatened with the fact that modern medical technology enables us to actually implant all kinds of devices within our body. And very soon, it seems likely that these implants might already be working quite well in the human brain. When that happens, that old prediction that men might actually become machines might actually confront us. There is one danger about that, and that is that the more machine-like we humans become, the more subject to some master control we will become. That, I think, is the ultimate worry, where our human freedom to think as we like will be blocked by a device that's implanted in our brain that prevents us from thinking freely, from thinking independently, and from thinking with sovereign will. That is what I think ultimately is meant by the threat, that one day human beings are going to behave like machines. I think I'll stop
Thank you.
there for now.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Dr. Fakhruddin, so how do you want to analyze today's topic?
Thank
Please
you
call me Tupac. Yeah.
for having me. This is Storm in Jakarta, in Bogor. Um, I think technology is as such in the 21st century is such as a miracle of humanity. As we understand, if we connected the entanglement of technology with religions, of course, we see the history of religions with the prophetic aspect of it. And as we understand, the prophet Adam is the one who understand about the nomenclature. Akot alam al adama asma'ul kulha. Everything known by Adam by name. And we have the second prophet, which is Idris. I don't know this is in English. Idris, the prophet of Idris, in the nomenclature in the world, in the Western name. But Idris is the prophet who know about science and to write. And then we have a prophet with technology. Uh, his name Noah and David. Noah is produce a ship in the religious Abrahamic tradition, and David created or produced armor. And also, we have another prophet that understand about the nature and even able to talk with something unimaginary like Satan and make them produce something. He is Solomon. And we have Moses, which understand about nature and science, with his miracle. And last up, not least, we have also Jesus Christ, Isa alayhi salam, who can revive the dead and to cure the blind man with mujizat or with the miracle. And the Prophet Muhammad with the latest books or Al-Kitab, Al-Quran, which is we call a rahmatan lil alamin, a complete set of the guidance of all the things, telling the people our the guidelines of what is the characteristic of the creation of God. That's why in the Muslim community, we call it the two aspect of sign. The creation that God make a creation, we call it ayat, a sign. God also make a revelation, which also called ayat. So we have the two ayat, the natural ayat, the cosmic ayat, and the textual ayat. Inna fi khalqis samawati wa ma fil ardi wa ikhtilafil laili wan nahari la ayatil liulil albab. So God created two things: the concept, the text, and the actual, which is the cosmic. To me, technology is a kind of this how we can see this kind of balance, because with technology now, even though not only machinery application and everything, but also the biological technology, which is more like creating a new life. there is a conspiration theory about the COVID-19, creating the virus. And this is possible. This is possible. That is why religion is very important in several aspects because they have an ethical
And this is possible. This is possible. This is why religion is very important in several aspects because they have an ethical. And this is
sorry.
Yes, sorry, Dr. Fakhruddin. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That is, I should say that now DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, can be copied. You can only select the good things, so human can create that. So by without holding a religion, as uh, Albert Einstein say, religion without science is lame, but science without religion is blind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Professor. We have our another honorable speakers, uh, Professor Jeffrey. Uh, Sir, can you please discuss on topic we are discussing
Thank
on?
you, Professor. We have our another honorable speakers, uh, Professor Jeffrey. Uh, Sir, can you please discuss on topic we are discussing Thank on? you, Professor. We have our another honorable speakers. Uh,
Sorry, I think Professor Jeffrey, if you join again, there is an echo from your side. It will be really helpful for us. Just you join. Definitely, we want to invite you. Just join again. No problem. We will discuss. Professor, there is a specific question from audience. I just want to add this question uh, because the audience, they want to know that how actually religion affect human lives. Even though we live in modern science, engineering, and technology era, and most important thing is that our audience basically they're from different countries and more western countries. So how Malaysian like believers actually make a proper relations in between modern science, engineering, technology, and religions? How you make a relationship in between religions as well as technology?
do you want? Who do you want to
Right?
respond?
Yes.
Can I begin with that?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
yes, Prof.
Can
Yes,
you hear me?
yes.
I think
Okay.
the relationship between man and what we may perceive as God is a very ancient and historical one. From time immemorial, human beings have looked at the sky and the stars and wondered who could be the creator behind all of this beautiful and sometimes befuddling and mysterious world that we find ourselves on. Of course, as science and technology unravels more and more of the mysteries of the universe, the closer we get to some sense of understanding maybe what our mission on earth might be, our purpose, as well as our meaning. One of the ways in which we've been helped in this process is by the entry of the great prophets of different religions of our world. Indeed, from time immemorial, I think there have been religious pundits who have been trying to share their visions, their deep knowledge, their understanding of the universe and the meaning of the universe. And slowly we begin to come closer and closer with the help of technology to the realization that perhaps actually we may not be alone. I think that is the latest that people are thinking about. And space exploration is trying to bring that truth a little bit closer to our own understanding. Because if we can find life on other planets that we are voyaging to now with the help of very sophisticated spacecraft, then maybe, just maybe, we may be little closer to the ultimate meaning of our universe.
Thank you, Professor. We have our honorable speaker, Professor Jeffrey. Professor, we are discussing on religions and as well as the life relationships, and most important thing is that we love to learn more about Asia Pacific culture. So can you share your views on how religion affect people lives?
I can
Can you hear
roughly
me?
make out what you're
Can
trying
you
to
hear
say,
me?
but the voice is cracking. I don't know what
Okay,
interference there is in terms of the sound,
okay,
and
okay.
I can't really
Professor Jeffrey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
fathom
you.
how we can try and make the sound a bit better.
Okay,
Yes, I can
Professor.
hear you.
Yes, Professor, can you just respond on these questions like how does religion affects people life?
Oh yes, religion actually gives us a set of principles, and every religion have a set of values. And I think society function very well when this set of values are sort of practiced in the society, and the harmony is there. But currently, there is this technology that's coming in, and people are moving away really from religion. So I think there's a big challenge now that religion is becoming to place less and less role in society. And there's other views that are coming in. Even a human rights view would be considered a religion. This is a set of beliefs. And I think this harmony of different views are getting very complicated as a result of technology. So there are specific examples that I will bring up later on. But definitely the value system of a religion actually forms the character of a nation itself.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Kirpal, do you want to add some point? Okay, I think so, Professor Farida, if you respond on that question, especially this is very important when we discussing on religion effect on human lives. Most of the cases, especially the youth communities, we cannot really relate the religious point of views and modern science and technology. So how we can relate it properly? How it will be helpful even in the COVID-19 situation?
You're asking me, or Kapal is
Yes,
going
Professor.
first? Okay, I would start with the concept with understanding the concept of man and concept of God. You should start with that. If we fail to understand why we are here, where we are heading after death, and this is where faith comes in, that there is life after death for those who believe. So if you believe in this concept, then you will understand the purpose of living. There is a purpose of living in life. That is how it's going to affect your life. If you're clear about your sense of direction, sense of purpose in existence, you will follow that. That life is short, transient, and you make the most of it while you're on earth, right? But for those who don't believe in it, this is where the conflict is. If you don't believe in afterlife, then you feel like anything goes. Your personal happiness is prime instead of communal happiness. And you don't think about what your action will do unto others, because this is the basis of, I think, Western human rights. Your personal happiness comes first. And then the concept of that ties up with the concept of God. Who is God? Is there one God, many gods, and all these questions? I think all religions have been trying to answer these questions, and these comparative studies of religion actually and the interfaith dialogue is what the world needs now, so that with proper understanding we can arrive at peaceful coexistence, mutual respect, and all that. Maybe, I mean, is Kapal here? Kapal and I have been doing much work on this. Also, Jeff, and we feel very strongly about interfaith dialogue, yeah, comparative religions, and so on, without trying to say that your religion is more superior than the others, but basically understanding where we are coming from. Right?
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Fakhruddin. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with Professor Farida. He said we must understand the concept of life because human being is created in this world, not just happen accidentally. Of course, we understand that in maybe we can understand from the science of life that we are the last creation that have been mastery the world, but we might learn from the past, which is many civilization also created by religious belief. We understand Mayan, we understand the other religious life, that how they manage their environment, for example. So this journey of human life always together with their technology, and together with that they can survive with religions. I think without the religions, humanity could not survive as before.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Jeffrey, I just want to know what type of biasness we have regarding technologies. If we compare this modern science, engineering, and technological development, yes, we are improving. But do you think we are very much biased on this modern science and technologies, and we are trying to like overlook this religious point of view? What are your views?
Yeah, I think technology is something that is very engaging. Whether you like it or not, the young, the old, everyone has to get into it. In fact, next time when you want to do any trading, if you are not embedded with a biochip, you will not be even be able to trade. So whatever biasness that a person have, uh, doesn't make a difference because technology is here to stay. But the thing is, would technology help humanity or destroy humanity? I think that is the thing that we have to discuss. Uh, let's put a very simple example. Technology. The robots are getting to be more lifelike, and with the addition of artificial intelligence, is becoming more intelligent. Now, there is a tendency now for people to move away from human relationship to a cyber relationship. I would feel more comfortable with a robot as a wife, as a mate, rather than a normal human. Because with the AI, you can have a robot that would speak the most interesting political news to you because they download everything and the AI knows your preference. You'll find the most interesting mate. And on top of that, in the area of sex, they are also engaging sex with robots as well. And all these can be tailor made to suit everybody's preference. Eventually, you will find that society gets affected with technology entangled, whereby people can no longer know how to choose between human natural relationships, and many would prefer to have a cyber relationship because that is controllable. I think many people feel very hurt with human relationships and they might withdraw. So, if this becomes very commonplace, where is the place of religion? No, because I think we are in the lost generation now, and many countries now are moving away from religion. So I think this is a problem. No, technology may even make it move away faster.
Thank you. Professor Farid, you are also a scientist and you are also run the academy and very important things. So why the scientists should care about uh, should care about this like religions? What your view? What the
I have to
inside?
yeah, I have to correct that, Sharif. I'm not a scientist. I'm a social scientist.
Yeah. You are a researcher, so yeah, yes.
So your question is?
My question is that why the scientists should care about religions? What is the like? Yes.
I really believe that science is not value free. People say, well, science neutral. No, you don't have values, cultural values. It's wrong. It's the person behind that scientific work. That person carries values. That person carries prejudices and biases. Take for example, yeah, a person who does not believe in religion may not have so much respect for life. So you
Mhm.
invent something and you go and bomb, you create drone to kill people and so on. But a
Mhm.
person with value, guided by religion, will say, we're not doing that.
Mhm.
We will use drone for benefit of mankind, for monitoring climate change, for agriculture, but not for killing and spying. So science is just a tool. Whatever innovations you have, it's just the medium. It's the person behind that science, and that person carries prejudices, values, religion, and so on. That's why I feel strongly the person behind the machine
Mhm.
must have high moral grounds. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Professor Kirpal. Yes. Uh, Professor Kirpal, we cannot hear you. Like if you use headphones and it will be helpful. Can you unmute please? In that situation, Dr. Fakhruddin,
Kapal, your microphone is muted. Unmuted.
can you hear me? Professor, can you hear me?
I think he has problem hearing the internet
Yes, I
connection.
think he can use the Google Chrome and the headphone. I think it will be helpful for him. Professor, definitely you are very valuable for us. All of the speakers is valuable for us, especially our audience. Hopefully they will learn many things. If you just help us, just use a headphone. I think this may be helpful for us. We cannot hear you clearly. Dr. Fakhruddin, if you help me to analyze this point, because this is very interesting things, the relationship in between technology and human. Even though when we working with different AI lab, let's say World Talent Economy Forum, we are integrated with AGI lab. It's a Microsoft lab, and David Kelly, he is also joined many times in World Talent Economy Forum. But we are observing that AI becomes so powerful, even the policy developments to educational things, healthcare systems, everywhere AI actually integrating, and it's a human competitions in between, like technology and humans. So in that situations, like how we replace our scientific methods with religious point of views, and where is the relationship, and if I want to learn more, like how Muslim concept can be more valuable for this scientific world, or this technology based, this industry 4.0, how where we can replace science, and how we can engage with religions, and what is the procedure.
Yeah, the interesting things about technology is, yeah, beside the man behind the gun, we also have must hold religion because of the ethical aspect of religion. They are guidance. They are long-term guidance, as in many religious belief and faith. They believe that humanity is the most important, and also secondly is the creation of God is the important too. So everything, the intervention, which is technology, could uh, be um, a problem for that. It's supposed to be religion is prohibited to create that, because that can be destroy our civilization, that can be, unethical, and everything that will disrupt the human aspect of life. This is why religion very important, and we need also dialogues, interfaith dialogues, and to think the positive aspect of the dialogue, as we understand that we need that ethical aspect in order to bring our civilization goes on. Technology is things that like AI is human created. So we can use big data now. We can find someone attitude in the internet, uh, and everything can be used for the big data. But ethically, how religion can intervene? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Kirpal, can you hear me? I'm sorry, we cannot hear you. Anybody
Can
can hear?
hear
Professor Kirpal, can you hear me?
the technology.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
But you're muted
Can you
again.
unmute, please? Please proceed.
Cannot hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please proceed, Kappa. I think you need to bring the mic closer to you.
Okay. Uh, no problem. No problem. I think there is some technical error. So, Professor Jeffrey, I want to ask you one specific things because Dr. Fakhruddin bring some important aspects of data, and data is a very important right now. And yes, the previous discussions when we discuss about data and smart city projects, we are also observing that data is very important right now. But when we discuss with the developing nations peoples, and not only these kinds of open dialogue, even we are engaged with much people, we find that for them data protection is not important, but developed nations, the data protection is very important. So as we like country like Malaysia, Singapore also doing very good jobs, or Indonesia or Malaysia, they are also trying to be a developed nations, and you have a very good infrastructures and very good like human resources and everything. So how you are taking different kind of initiative to protecting the data of human lives, and how you can develop next strategy to utilizing this data for scientific development or technological development.
Yeah, I think science is a very powerful tool. Data analytics has given us precise precision in knowing what the society wants and thinks, you know. So now data analytics is very much used in elections as well to judge how the underlying trend that people think. But unfortunately, all these things with power, you have got to handle it with ethical actions, you know. But unfortunately, when it comes to science, there's a lot of people who exploit science while hiding the true intentions. I think Cambridge Analytics also, you know, have fallen foul when with so much of data at your hands, you can actually exploit for the good of the humanity or for selfish purposes. So that is where the interaction between religious values comes in. When you are a religious person, you have accountability to God. Whereas if you are holding the religion of the world, then you will put your own interest above all else. And no, scientific knowledge can be used to kill the world as well, to depopulate the world as well. No, so how do you handle the power that science has given you? And unfortunately, because people are moving away more towards the philosophy of the world, they're putting their self-interest before communal interest. You'll find that it is very difficult to regulate based on governance. All right. So I do not believe that governance really work. Because when I spoke to my students, no, do you think that we can run a business without corruption? 80% of my students in the ethics class says you cannot do that. So it is already accepted value that no, who you know is more important than what you know. So that is that kind of dangerous ethical framework that we have. At the same time, the very power of science is availing itself for evil or for good.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really, really interesting point. Professor Farida, Professor Jeffrey actually bring very important point of ethics. And if we just discuss about the ethical point of view, let's say developing nations. I'm actually from a developing nations. We practice more religions, but we have, I'm very honest with you, many corruptions and many social problem. On the other hand, if we integrate it with technology, we find that technology actually help to reduce corruption. What Professor Jeffrey said that, okay, like 80% of his students believe that they cannot do business or start business without corruptions. But we find that if we integrate it with technology, the more we integrate it with technology, corruption will reduce from the system. What do you believe? We had too much of believers, on the other hand too much of corruption in developing nations. I do not want to say about any specific countries, but do you believe that technology actually has different views and acceptance for reducing these corruptions and these things?
I don't believe that, Sharif.
Okay. Okay.
I reserve, you know, I think that people who claim themselves to be religious or of
Mhm.
a certain religious persuasion, if they do all those bad things, that means they have not fully understood their religion.
Excellent. Yeah.
No religion teaches its believers to kill, to steal, to hurt others. You know, you check all the great major religion. None of the religion teaches that. So if you
Mhm.
commit and you say I'm a believer and you do all this, that means you haven't fully internalized, you haven't fully understood the message of your religion. Better check that.
Mhm.
It's not the
Mhm.
fault of the religion, but it's the fault of your lack of understanding of your own religion. How many of us Muslims understand the philosophy of Islam, for example?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you, I think the literacy rate, the religious literacy rate in Muslim world is very low, just
Mhm.
as our health literacy rate is very low. COVID cases would not be this bad if our health literacy rate is high, and it connects to our overall literacy. You know,
Mhm.
religious literacy, all those things. You know, I think it's that we need to check. And I don't believe that the technology reduces corruption. In fact, you see it. A
Mhm.
lot
Mhm.
of this white collar crime is done through the internet and all that. You know, one day,
True.
you know, an old woman can lose how many millions.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's again the person behind the machine. I would stand by that.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yes, 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 Professor Kripal. I'm sure you have a very interesting point, and this is great learning for me and for our audience. Yes, Professor Kripal.
Can you all
Yes,
hear me now?
excellent. Yes.
Yes, welcome
You
back.
can? Yeah. Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you. I think we need to distinguish between knowledge and understanding. I think the big worry that I have is that as we continue to progress in what we think is the right basis of education, we are, equipping our students with whole mountains of knowledge. But whether they understand what this knowledge is all about, whether they understand what they can do with this knowledge, and whether they understand what they must never try to do with this knowledge, that is where I think the nub of the problem is. And I fear that the more knowledge we cram our young people's minds with, the more difficult it is going to be for them to distinguish between good and bad. Because at one level, all knowledge is supposed to be good. Because if I know what is bad for me, if I know what is bad for my family, if I know what is bad for my friends and humanity as a whole, then the logical answer would be I will try never to do that. But if my understanding of what is good and what is not good is very limited or handicapped in any way, then a lot of danger can set in. You know, one of the poets who said, "A little learning is a dangerous thing, therefore drink deep or taste not the premium spring." In other words, ignorance in some areas is better than knowledge. Because if the knowledge is going to lead a person to do more wrong, more evil, then it is better that that person remains ignorant. And I think this is why the role of education becomes primal. It's a fundamental challenge to all of us involved in education. And everybody is involved in education, not just the professional teachers and professors, but parents, siblings, everybody is involved in the whole arena of knowledge and passing on the knowledge to greater understanding. I think that's where the real challenge lies.
Excellent. Dr. Fakhruddin, I think this is very interesting point because we are discussing more on knowledge developments, more on like how we can really practice the religions and what actually Dr. Farida said and Professor Kirpal said that reality we have to create more values. Values is important. Even the COVID situations we are observing how we can add more values in our life based on religion.
Yes,
Yes, this
Yes,
is
Dr.
this
Fakhruddin.
is
Yes.
yeah, this
it's a
is
very
Yes.
big
interesting.
challenge. It's a very big
Yeah,
challenge. And
big
I think
challenge and interesting
one
as
of the
well.
Okay, Dr. Kirpal, I think I want to give him chance. Then Professor Fakhruddin. Yes, Dr. Kirpal.
Yeah, purpose.
right. What I was going to say is I think every Ministry of Education must pose the question to all its teachers with the knowledge that you are going to transmit to your students. What end goal are you going to tell them about? Is it going to be the end goal of bringing about greater harmony among all the different peoples of the world? Or is it going to be something like only we matter? Let's not worry about other people. Let them worry about themselves. Because in a global community, almost everything is going to be transparent. It's only a matter of timing. It's only sooner or later. They are already having cameras which are available, but they're very expensive at the moment. Which, when you use the camera with your eye, you can see the other person totally without clothes. Now, that is very, very worrying. On the other hand, our education has now reached the point where most of us, by the time we finish primary school, know exactly what differentiates a male from a female and a female from a male, and others who might be in between. I think knowledge and understanding, if you put them together, I have a simple formula: knowledge plus understanding equals wisdom. And I think what is lacking in many of us is no longer knowledge, but the wisdom that can only come when we put the knowledge in the additional basis of understanding. In other words, I hear you, but do I really understand you? That is the important question. Our students hear us, but do they really understand what we're trying to communicate, what we're trying to convey? I think this is a fundamental basis in terms of going forward in a harmonious, humanistic, and humane kind of fashion. Because there are millions and millions out there who may have the knowledge, but they really don't know what to do with the knowledge. And when they don't know what to do with the knowledge, then that's when the dark forces of the universe begin to occupy their minds. And that's when danger comes in. Because danger is always lurking around us. And if we are not careful, it's finding a way. Even a small needle prick, a small little minute hole, danger can come in. And then it make the bigger and bigger. It's like a little hole where the water comes in, but the water rushes in with so much pressure that the hole gets bigger and bigger as more and more pressure of the water is applied. So I think we have to be very, very cautious how we convey knowledge and understanding to students, our own people, our children, our grandchildren, our relatives, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Fakhruddin. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much. I think the explanation of Kerpol is beautifully explained. However, technology might reshape um, human as well to control. And as the matter of fact, for example, if we use technology for law enforcement, for example, using camera for the traffic light, and it can help to make people more understand about what they are doing mistake, to control the attitude or the behavior. And it is very important in some aspect, but anyhow, we should also be carefully using technology, because it might backfire for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Jeffrey.
Yeah, I'll just follow up with what Dr. Faruddin has said. Technology actually implement religious values very well. Once we put in technology, especially in a government e-procurement system, then you'll find that it takes away the opportunity for any corrupt or undertable. But unfortunately, it is still the religious values that will determine its implementation. Many of these e-procurement do not work, and all the governance factors they put in, when the politicians themselves says, let's do away with that, we have a private deal, to a closed tender system, that kind of thing. So I find that many of the things that were implemented that's supposed to improve governance did not work because it was sabotaged by the people who are actually controlling it. So then it goes back to the question of Kirpal Singh, where we say that we have got the knowledge for the technology, but do we have the understanding? And with the understanding, do we have the wisdom that it will lead to? I think one of the wisest men that lived, Sulaiman or Solomon, as you call them, he lived his life full of wealth, full of ladies, and full of wisdom as well. And at the end of the life, his only thing that he say is, vanity of vanities, everything is vanity. That we are actually built to fear God. And the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So basically, knowledge is such a dangerous thing. And if I'm very knowledgeable, you will guide me to be like maybe infamous Joe Law, to use it for the worst, to rob people. All right. And to him, it is success. I've got my yacht, I've got my fantastic friends that are around me, but he is destroying himself. So that is why you see a lot of business people who are very successful in life and really pursue money for the sake of money. Towards the end of their life, they begin to realize that vanity is vanity. You cannot take anything away, and then they become very philanthropic. So I think knowing it early in life is wisdom. Until you live the whole life meaninglessly, towards the end you think of the eternal part of it, then I think it's gone. But people don't think like that anymore. Everybody live for the day, and the media actually encourage us to succeed no matter what. No, get your million, buy your Ferrari, and all those, and that actually destroy our life. The contentment characteristic is gone. So I think that's a very great danger.
Excellent. Excellent. Professor Farida, there
I
are
think
many
I think that.
interesting. Oh,
Oh yeah, sorry.
yes. Professor Kirpal, you want to add some point?
Yeah, I just wanted to say and follow up that yes, media thrives on sensationalism. So whatever is sensational gets headline news. And usually it is bad news because bad news makes headlines. And so a lot of young innocent minds are always attracted by these big headlines. And that is becoming a very, very big challenge for all of us who are in education. Because how can we compete with the fascinating TV programs that are produced? And, I have argued that censorship is now becoming more and more a necessity. Once upon a time, I was very known for being anti censorship. But I'm now beginning to realize that our children are being exposed to a system of knowledge that is not grounded in any kind of value based system.
Mhm.
And if a system of knowledge is groundless, That means it does not have a fundamental humanistic value frame. Then I think we find it more difficult to even try and convince our young people that it is better to be good than to be not good or than to be bad. Nowadays, the difference between good and bad is becoming so fine that people argue and they keep on arguing. How can you say that is bad? How can you say if I walk around naked is a very bad thing? After all, God made us naked. It is we human beings that began making cloaks to cover up because we were ashamed. Why should we be ashamed of nudity? Now, if this chain of thinking continues unabated, then we are going to end up in a terrible mess. It's going to be chaotic. And this is why I think more and more there is a need for us to be very, very careful. One, how we train our teachers, and two, how we randomly support the call for freedom. Because freedom is more than a two-edged sword. Freedom could be a multi-edged sword. And if we are not careful, sometimes that edge, one of the edges of the sword, might actually just point at our own hearts. And then there'll be destruction to no end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Farida. One important aspect we are observing that education is very, very important. And all of you are academicians, you are contributing a lot. You are developing millions of people. So how we can develop more effective education system, even in the developing nations? And I don't know, but you can guide us how actually religions and technology play a very good role in education
Yeah.
system. Yes.
Unfortunately, Sharif, I feel that people who subscribe to this kind of discussions are in the minority, you know. And I think this generation of teachers are facing out. So th- I'm very worried because the kind of system, human right, system of justice, Western human rights, they have totally different values than traditional ones, guided by religion. So I think the conflict will always be between the two. Yeah. So I think we need to have an open mind to go back to old schools, to philosophy, the study of philosophy and religion. It need it
Mhm.
need to be brought back. Even literature, in where I am, literature is so marginalized. People don't see it as money making program. So bring back technology, web design, and all that. So in the end, what are you going to produce? And what kind of graduates are we going to produce? Workers, merely workers, but not thinkers with values. So I think that will be a challenge in the next generation to come.
Mhm. Thank you. Dr. Fakhruddin, yes.
Yeah, this is a challenge as well in our modern world where religions mostly have to answer everything. Our challenge, like such as these dialogues, and also in campus, Uh, however, if we see the phenomenon of the interreligious dialogues, the global dialogues, they're now also not only paying attention to science and technology, but they bring religions now. They said they have been forgotten, the most powerful community in the world to solve about our ecological problem. When the Pope released the Laudato Si, the advice on environment and climate change for the Catholics, is really shaking the scientists who are making a dialogues on the global level for the climate change, because what we understand, the thing that can change people heart and mind is only with religion. We can, for example, in fasting month, you can eat by yourself, but but no, nobody want it. So 1 million people, Muslim people, they are prohibited for eating at the night time, and they believe with God, and they are not doing that. They can eat if they want to, but by the faith and belief, they're not doing that. So the things that important is really still important aspect in human life, and it's also a part of the civilization of human. And by that we also need a dialogues between religion and science, the powerful community in religions and science, and can also help the implementation of science, because religion also accept, I believe, many aspects of science and technology.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor
I think,
Jeffrey. Oh,
yeah, I
yes.
think
Yes.
it is necessary for us to remember that it is with technology that we actually are now communicating with the world. Until about 200 years ago, I mean, people living in village X would probably know village Y and Z, but they wouldn't know anything about villages A, B, C, D until, they reach
Mm.
X. But now, thanks to technology, we travel the world. I mean, whether we travel the world by way of television or we actually fly in aeroplanes and rockets, the point is that the world has become a little village. And because it has become a little village, it at the one level becomes more exciting because we are talking and exchanging views and beginning to understand that not everybody thinks that water is the greatest gift to earth. Some people think that air is more important than water. And then another one comes along and say, you guys are both wrong, it's fire. Without fire, there'll be nothing. We'll all be dead in winter. So a lot of these dialogues are happening precisely because of technology. So I
Mm.
think technology, they used to say, is a double-edged, sword, but now it is multi-edged, and it is becoming probably going to be so multi that we're going to lose track of just how many dimensions there actually are conceivably inherent in the whole idea of technology. When I was in Papua New Guinea, and I was there for a while, for 2 years in 1980, the people who lived in the hills, they were so terrified of water that they would faint at the sight of water. It was difficult to drag them to the shore because to them water was, oh my god, what is this? It
Oh.
was horrible. The only kind of water they knew was rainwater. So when they came to a lake or they came to a sea or the open ocean, they were just terrified.
Mm.
And because of their being in terror, they'll be paralyzed. There'll be a state of paralysis. They wouldn't be able to move. They'll just stand there looking, completely blank. So I think fear has always been an important element of human life. And the more we can get rid of fear, the more we can persuade people, hey, there's nothing to fear. If we get together in a nice way and we talk nicely, everything is going to be better than what it is today. That's what we need. That's the message that we need. And I think sometimes we need to be a bit more generous, because by saying the only way you can do this is by following me becomes a very, very controversial problem. In the days when one village had no connection with another village, it was okay because the head boy, the head boss, the head man, the head woman, they controlled everything that happened in the village. But when the whole world becomes a village, then you've got millions, billions of human beings, each trying to say, my way is the way. And I think this is where we, as educators, need to say we need a lot more tolerance. We need a lot more peaceful exchange of ideas. We need a lot more patience. We also need a lot more generosity. We need to be generous with those who hear us and may not immediately understand us. You know, when I was young in the primary schools in Singapore, they used to beat me with a ruler. And when they got tired of beating me, they'll tell me to get out of the class. You're a nuisance. But try today. Today, parents will be at the principal's office the very next day. Why did you tell my child to get out of the class? Explain. So you see, values have changed, and they have changed dramatically. And they haven't always, I'm sad to say, they haven't always changed for the better. Sometimes they've actually moved us backwards in times, especially in terms of manifesting our humanity. Because when one human being says, I'm way, way better than you, and their assistant then say, yes, he is way, way better than you, then I think we are in very, very big trouble. There must always be a small allowance for error, even error on the part of those who claim to be the most knowledgeable on earth. You know, I think all religious prophets have said humility is where it all begins. We need to be humble. We need to know that we are all humble, we are all prone to making mistakes, even if the mistake is a simple act of forgetting. We may have forgotten that 10 years ago, we actually agreed with somebody else that X was the way to go. But today, when somebody says X is the way to go, having forgotten that, we think it's brand new and we say, what are you talking? This is rubbish. Only then somebody reminds us and say, but 10 years ago, this was what you said and this is what you agreed. So as knowledge becomes more and more, in other words, as knowledge multiplies, our memory also needs to be sharpened to remember every little thing that goes on. And it is difficult. It's very, very hard. It's a big challenge. I mean, a primary six student today, I think knows more than what I used to know in, standard 10. That means Sec 4 in Singapore, 4 years after primary six, because knowledge has exploded and the media is full of information. What is the difference between information and knowledge? Even professors find it difficult to answer that question. What is the difference, they say? Are you kidding me? Is there a difference? Of course there is a difference. Otherwise there won't be two words, right? I mean, no two words in the English language are identical. They may be similar, but they are never identical. And I think this
Yeah,
is
I'd like
something
to.
that our children need to learn.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, Professor Jeffrey. Yes.
yeah. What you say, Kipal, is very interesting. The world has indeed
Thank
become
you.
a village,
Yeah,
but the thing is that doesn't mean that it's a good thing, because within this
of course.
village, the people that are speaking the loudest are not the ones that talk about generosity or kindness. A lot of hatred, a lot of earthly values are brought in, and so the whole
Very
village
sadly.
now is
Yes,
mesmerized by this.
yes.
And
Very sadly.
usually, the good people choose to keep quiet, you know, and that's
Yes,
where the evil triumphs, you know. So I like to bring up a point about form versus substance. In a lot
yes.
of way, religion is losing its power because
Mm-hmm.
many religions are now are practicing it in form rather than in substance. You know, uh,
Uh-huh.
a lot of European nations are known to be Christian nations, but their churches are all barren right now. No, because the people have
Uh-huh.
actually gone to another religion, the religion of the world, the religion of business, of self gratification. So
Uh-huh.
the more we go along these lines, the more the extremist comes in and in desperation force a conformance. In other words, you must not only practice as a say a Muslim or a Christian, you must look like a Christian, you must act like a Muslim, no, you must dress as a Muslim, and very soon the substance is gone from the person, but the form of religion is widely seen. No, so that is the danger as well, because in other words, there will be really no religious values in even those that looks religious. So at the end of the technology, technology will be exploited for evil gains. So I think there's a danger, and we have to be very careful about substance over form. But right now, there's a lot of form over substance.
I
Thank
totally
you.
agree with you. I totally agree with you. And in Singapore, some years ago, because of this precise challenge, they decided to create a small space which is now known as the Harmony Center. I don't know how many of my fellow panelists. I think Farida, you've been there, right?
Yeah,
Our
I've been
Harmony
there. Yeah.
Center in Singapore.
Yeah.
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 The Harmony Center in Singapore brings together the fundamental values and beliefs of several different religions, 9 different religions, and very open to even adding a 10th if there is a need in the future. And I think one of the things that a lot of my students who actually go there, and there are school excursions that take everyone to the Harmony Center, because we live in a world where my neighbor is different from me. I mean, the way he or she dresses, the way he or she says prayers and everything, all different. But this Harmony Center is designed to make us all more human, to be a little bit more giving in our way of living. In other words, not to be so judgmental to say that you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I think the more we can say, hey, you are praying a little bit differently from me. Can you help me understand your prayer a little bit more so I can begin to appreciate what you're doing? I think ignorance, in the old days, they used to say ignorance is bliss. But ignorance is only bliss for those who forever want to remain ignorant. Because, as the poet said, a little learning is a dangerous thing. A little learning. And part of the problem with mass media today is that it seems to give everybody who, is involved in media, and there's nobody that I know who is not involved with media, TV, radio, papers, and all of that. Anybody who is involved with media begins to realize, hey, this guy tells me this is the way I should drink water. But the other guy said, no, I shouldn't drink water from a tumbler. It's bad. I should drink water from this kind of a can. Another guy says, no, cans are made of plastic. That's bad. Very slowly you're going to be hurt because plastic is bad for the world. And so the debate and discussion goes on. But even as we allow the freedom of open discussion, we must also allow the freedom for open judgment. Because as teachers we need to judge practically every day, right? So many of my students say, but prof, Susan also said the answer was more or less the same like the one I gave. How come she got a B, I got a C? And every day teachers, we know we are confronted with these kinds of questions from students. It becomes a bit more of a problem when the parents come in and say, my son says you gave a similar answer A, but he only got a B. How come? Explain. So the more involved people get with the whole act of education and learning, the more challenges we're going to face moving forward. So how do we bring harmony about? It begins with 2 things, I think. Tolerance in a real kind of way. In other words, I must not cut you short when you're speaking. I must listen patiently. And if I don't understand something, I must at least have the courtesy to ask you to kindly explain that again to me. And maybe even for a third time before I get my own result, before I come to my own conclusion. So in some ways, I feel very sad. I see people who are of my grandchildren's age growing up very confused sometimes because the school teacher tells them one thing, a book may tell them another thing, mass media, the newspapers, the radio, the television, and all of that tell them another thing. Somebody coming in from a different part of the world tells them yet another thing. So there's confusion. How do we get rid of confusion without being antagonistic, without being aggressive, and without being unnecessarily uncharitable? They say charity begins at home. It does. And this is why we are always super courteous to people who visit us at home. That same person who visits me at home today and I treat like a very good guest, I might argue in Parliament tomorrow. So long as he and I understand that these are different parameters and it's okay, then we are on the same page. But if the person takes umbrage and says, how dare you? Yesterday I was at your house and you treated me like a god. Today I'm in Parliament and you're treating me like an animal. That moment, something fundamentally has gone wrong in our act of communication. So I think communication is a very, very human enterprise that really needs to be introduced in every school, whether the primary, the secondary, the tertiary, because through communication, a lot more harmony, a lot more peace can really be realized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Farid. Thank you, Dr. Farida. I have a specific questions because we are discussing more on academy and academic developments. Even if we want to bring this religious point of view, as well as if we want to create real wisdom, we need to improve our academic part. Even in the COVID-19 situation, according to World Bank report, I can share the World Bank report right away. So two-thirds of the developing nation, they already cut their budget for from academia, from educations. Even in South Asia, only last 1 year they lost around $1 trillion from educations. So
Right.
I believe, yes, we are in challenging situation right now. Definitely we are in challenging situation. But before the COVID, we are observing government or different organization, the value of education increasing, but investment of education is decreasing. Even in the COVID situation and before the COVID situation, if we analyze last 10 years of report. So what should we do? How we can convince the government and corporation to invest in education? I know millions of students now, they are drop out. Many women, many girl, I want to say that their father and their parents, they cannot afford it. They have to go for marriage, and many interesting things happening which is not actually tolerable. Many teachers, they lose their job. They start a new career. Maybe they are selling teas. They become rickshaw puller. I know personally. You are the, you people are the very powerful from your own countries, and you have all of the access to the government. How we can convince to the developing nations governments, you should invest more on educations, and you should support the next generations.
Very hard, Sharif, because unfortunately, those in government, they didn't finish school, many of them. So I don't think they truly believe in education and the need of education. You know, even in Malaysia, I think only less than 20% went to universities. So, you know, you need to convince the powers that be of this, but I think their priority is elsewhere. But if you look at the old days in Islam, golden age, they don't need money. They just identify problem and then work quietly on it, you know. So I think money not necessarily is the be all and end all, but your commitment to transform your society, there will be means. If you truly believe in a cause, there'll be means. I mean, I've got a friend who just resigned from the university, but she's making, like she said, I want the freedom to create and to invent. I'm freer outside than being in the academy. And the money will come in because, you know, she was creating and inventing. And investors will come in and pump in money. So I think it's we need to shift our mindset as well, that whenever there's money can only be function, but I think it's the commitment, you know, the commitment to transform society and life, you know, the means will come in. Where there's will, there's way. That's my take, you know.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Fakhruddin. Yes.
Yes. On the other hand, we see this COVID have teaching us a lot of for the education, because we need less contact person, and as we a state of island nations, we can use the technology to transfer knowledge. And like now, we don't have to go to Malaysia, for example, or I don't have to go to Singapore for this dialogue. We can use this distant learning. And like in my campus, before COVID going, we use a blended teaching, which is we can double the capacity of the campus for accepting students for going to university, and we can reduce also the payment for the university. So by that, 3 months before the COVID, we I don't know what like what or 2 semester before COVID, we doing the blended learning, with this 50% of the student in house and 50% going to the campus. So we can double the acceptance of the student at the university, and we using the online system, we using website, and now we also expanding with the website university, uh, um, distant learning university. We have, so we can accept many students from outside, from any island now. So we don't have to go to Papua, because if you go from Jakarta to Papua, it's just like you flying to from Jakarta to Dubai, 7 hours. So we can make the education more efficient. This is the blessing of this COVID-19. I think we need to learn a lot, and it's also less of our carbon footprint because of the transportation is less. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jeffrey. Yes.
Oh, I think in terms of budget, in our country, our education receive a lot of budget, but it doesn't translate into impacts. For one thing, probably the budget is not well spent, and our schools are crying for facilities, for
Mm.
better classrooms. So it's a very sad situation when there's a lot of budget, and yet the education system don't turn out well. So in the first case, I would say that governance and transparency in the budget spending is the first fault that you have to find to say that we have a degrading education standard. The other thing is sticking on to the old paradigms. We are moving to IR4, and yet the things that we are teaching is still very outdated. No, we are not moving with the times, and especially right now, whether you want to move with the times, you want to use video or you don't want to use video, there's no choice. You have to. So now we find our academic teachers in primary schools, secondary schools, do not have the infrastructure for doing that, and do not have the skills to actually teach online. Because teaching online is a different set of skills altogether. So we are in a terrible situation right now where COVID keep us at home, and yet our school system right now do not have the capacity to move online. And then now it really shows the bad connectivity and the divide, digital divide. The poor people in the PPR flats, public housing, are not able to access, and they don't have the devices. So we will introduce another problem, a social and digital divide will start emerging as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks for today. This is an excellent discussion, especially World Talent Economy Forum. We are trying to engage with 300 different corporations, university, academy from around the world, even UN, WTO, and many of the important organizations. They are supporting our initiative, and we are distributing our knowledge as much as possible. Even many university from even North America, even like Europe, and Asia and Africa, they are heavily utilizing our content, and hopefully how we developing our communities with the help of all of the scholars and all of the people, those who are changing their society, they can help us to grow the new communities. That's why we believe in talent economy. Talent is everywhere. We need to connect all of the talent, and by this way we can grow our new economy, our new world. And you people are the you are the great resources for us. You are the hero for us, because your work and your initiative for your country is very very helpful for your community. When the youth community can learn more about you, they can understand how you contributing for Singapore, for Malaysia, for Indonesia, they can take you as a model, and then they will change their communities. Actually, for the youth community, maybe we cannot teach much about science, engineering, technology. They can everything they get from online and from their academia, but we have to set a good example. That is our belief, and we are setting a good example. Like, we are bringing the all of the talented and scholars from around the world, and you people are hero, and heroes model will change our new heroes and new community. And this way we will grow together, we will understand each others, and definitely we will solve many problems. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. I directly want to go for concluding remarks from first Professor Farida.
I have nothing to add. Just to thank you and my
Thank you
colleagues
so
for
much.
being here. Right.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you
you,
so
Dr.
much.
Dr.
Thanks,
Kaitwal.
everyone.
Yes, what's your okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.
Dr.
God bless.
Fakhruddin, what's your concluding remarks?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. See you again.
Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a very insightful and enlightening discussion. I feel that right now, no, the topic is interesting, technology and religion.
Yes.
Right now, what I hope is that with the knowledge and things that are shared, all the heroes that you talk about will gather together to create models that is so good that the government cannot deny that it is good. And this model just sort of take over everything. And to do that, we have to not work in silos. We have to work in an integrated fashion. So the first thing to do is to get all the heroes together. So thank you very much for inviting me
Yes,
today.
yes. I just want to add one point, because many of the scholars from around the world, they are observing, they are sharing our content, and they are communicating like different labs well, from big corporation like Microsoft, IBM, Cisco's, even the different universities. They want to go with the open dialogue with you people. So if you have available time, you can share your timing with us, and we can arrange some open dialogues, and hopefully we can solve many problems with the help of religions and modern technology. Bye bye and take care. It's really, really great session for everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ending
Bye
now.
bye.